Hello plant people, it's Nora the Leca Queen. Thank you for joining me. Today I am going to be giving you a tour. I'm going to be giving you a tour of my home and where I've got all my plants living. So lots of you have asked me to give you a tour and I've always resisted and I've said, oh, you know, things aren't arranged the way I'd like them to be. I've recently moved and, you know, plants aren't living the way I'd like them to be, but I've decided I'm going to show you everything, warts and all, and, you know, just so you can see where I'm coming from and you can see how I eventually grow. So I've got different sections in my home because of the lighting situation where I've got a group of plants here, a group of plants there, and we're going to go through all those little groupings and I'm going to show you what they all look like. So I should mention before we start that some of you might know that I recently moved home and this particular home is not ideal for plant growing. The light is just absolutely horrendous and it doesn't help that we are now in winter in Melbourne. So I'm really just trying to do my best to get the lighting situation up to par, and that's something that I'm working on. My lighting situation is not ideal and I really do need to get more and better grow lights, but that's a work in progress. You know, guys, I've got 3 kids, you know, I can't spend all my money on plants and plant related accessories, you know what I mean? So anyway, it's what it is. I think my plants have been growing a lot slower because of that. But again, you know, it is not the growing season, so what do I know? Let us get going. Let's go to the first area. So this is my first plant area here, and the only reason it actually looks this bright is because I've had to put my light up just so I can make the video look a bit better because it's really quite dark here. I'll turn my light off and you can see what it actually looks like. So this is this area without my recording light on. It's really quite dark and I have a few plants living here. So quite a lot of poles living down there and they're right in front of a window. I'll turn that light back on so we can have a better video experience. And as you can see, there's heaps and heaps of poles here, and there's also a shelf where I've got a number of plants living. So I'll stop the video, turn the plants around so you can actually see what they are. I'll start with the shelf. I've got here a few of my syngoniums living on moss poles. So this one right here is my syngonium Pink Splash. I've got my gorgeous syngonium Mojito over here. And over here, I've got my syngonium Three Kings living in that corner. And when we come down here, this one over here is my curly spider plant. So this one is living in a 14 centimeter pot. Not doing as well as it used to. It's got quite a few crispy edges, crispy tips, but you know, it's got so many pups. I actually don't know what to do with this plant. It's just big, it's just everywhere. I've got some Hoyas here. This is my little Hoya. Oh, let me see what that one is. This is my little Hoya Sangi here. And I've got a little Hoya Serpens over here. And hiding in this little corner here is my little silver lady. Premnum, she's going okay. One of the few vining plants that I've got. So she's happy. And living here is my Syngonium Red Spot. That is a Syngonium Red Spot. Yeah, few leaves coming through. That one's just quietly getting on with life. So coming down here to the poles, that there is my Amplissimum. That is my silver stripe Amplissimum living in Leca. So that one has just gone into Leca and has, you can see a little yellow leaf coming there, which is expected. That doesn't surprise me. So that's okay. It's doing okay in Leca. And this one over here is my Sodiroy. So this Sodiroy as well has just gone into Leca. Just gone up on this moss pole. This is its first season, so I don't expect much from it at the moment. It's not dead, which is a plus, but it also has a new leaf coming along there. So, you know, things are happening and that's good. And this is one of my beauties. I love her. This one is an Epipremnum pinnatum Fantasia, Asian form. I love how this one is going. Look at those fenestrations starting to come through there. It's going really, really well. This plant was very, very small when I got it, and look at how lush she is now, living on her moss pole. And I bet you if this plant had more light, it would be way up that pole by now. So, you know, that's maybe unhappy with that, but what can you do? It can't be helped. And oh, here's my little gorgeous. This is my emerald pothos. Look at her. That is her on all her moss pole glory. And look at the variegation that she's got going there. It's just absolutely splendid. New leaves everywhere. There are 2 stems on this pole, and this plant was tiny when I put her up on the moss pole, and she's going really well now. Again, this is another plant. If it had more light, people, I need light. That's what I need. Oh, look at this one here. This one is Lechleriana. It's a Monstera, Lechleriana. I think. I don't know. This has been one of my not very good performers. I don't know what this plant wants. I've got 1 vine that's just going right up to the top, and there's actually 3 vines. There's 3 vines on this moss pole. You can see 1, 2, 3, but only 1 has gone all the way up to the top. It's really right at the top of the moss pole, and I don't know. As you can see, it's right up there, but it's doing well. Fenestrations are starting to come there, so you know, it can't be all bad, but I would like the others to actually come along as well. So I don't know, should I chop the one that's going really quickly? What do you think I should do? I would love to hear your comments. Let me know in the comments below. This one here is my beautiful, beautiful Epipremnum Mandula. This is my Mandula pothos. Oh, look at that moss pole. She is loving life. Look at those leaves. Again, I wish I could get more light for her, but she's glorious. I love her. She is doing so well. Ooh, who should we do next? Oh, this is my Philodendron Brazil. That's my Brazil, and she's got a new leaf actually. That is that new leaf over there, doing really, really good. And I'm happy with her, living on a plastic-backed moss pole, having the time of her life. If you haven't seen how I make these plastic-backed moss poles, just click on the link above and that will take you straight to it. Who else do we have here? This one here is my Hawaiian pothos. This is tiny. I just put it up on a moss pole probably a few weeks ago, and she's doing really well. This is a new leaf coming through here. As you can see, the new leaves are not as big as the old one. They will start to get bigger, just not yet, but she's living in Leca as well, and she's happy. All these plants here are living in Leca. This is my Monstera Standleyana. This is another one that's living on a moss pole and having the time of her life. So there's 2 plants in here. There's a teeny tiny one over here, and then there's this one over there that's growing and growing and growing. It's doing really well. The variegation's lovely, but I don't like that the variegation is not half moon. I don't have a half moon variegated leaf, and that makes me a little bit sad. And every time I see one of these plants with a half moon variegation, I just get so jealous. I want one. I really, really do. So if you know where I can get one of these half moon type ones, please let me know, because I'd really like to get one. This is my Philodendron Majestic. This is a new plant, literally just went up on this moss pole. This one here is a new leaf since she's been in my care, and there's another leaf coming there. So all in all, I think she's doing okay. I've got another one here. That's a tiny satin pothos. This is not the Exotica one. This is a Scindapsus pictus something. You know what I mean. I'll write it up here somewhere, but that's what it is. And that it's doing okay. I'll show you an Exotica. We'll do a quick, what's the difference between an Exotica and the other one? So this is an Exotica, and this one's living, you know, it's trailing, living. Look at that, look at that, look Look at that. Just big as my face, literally as big as my face. This is the Exotica, and as you can see, it seems to have more of these, you know, silvery sort of bits on it, as opposed to this one, which has just almost got like splashes, and like this one. So this is the Scindapsus pictus exotica satin pothos. This is also a satin pothos, but a different variety. So yeah, there's that. So this is one of my trailing plants. I love this plant. She's beautiful. I'll show you another one from this little section. This is a little African violet, and this little violet, I propagated one of my violets. It was a single leaf, and that's her now, living in Leca, just, you know, loving life. Oh, this right here, oh goodness, that is huge, that is huge. This is my Monstera silta picana. This is the one that looks a little bit like the El Salvador, but the smaller leaf version. So I'm really happy with that one. There's about 4 vines in this. It's doing really, really well. And I think that it's big enough to start getting fenestrations now. I'm starting to get a bit annoyed with it because it's taking its sweet time. That's it there. It has a plastic sheet back moss pole as the first moss pole, and then, you know, I kind of got lazy and I just put a normal moss pole as an extension, which works fine. So it's a little hybrid. This one is my Epipremnum amplissimum silver. This is a silver one. The one I showed you before was a silver stripe, and this is a silver one. Literally been living in Leca and on this moss pole for just a few weeks. So for this one, it's a win that she's still alive. So yay. And living right here in front of my window is my watermelon peperomia. So, you know, you've seen this one numerous times. One of my absolute favorites, and that's where she lives. Down there, I've got my philodendron white princess. That is my white princess. Look at that. I love this. She has a half moon leaf. She's doing really well. When I got this plant, it was so small. I'll try and see if I can find a picture, but she's growing really well. She's growing fabulously. This one here is my Monstera Peru. That is my Peru over there. And that one is living in my Italian Leca. Again, I think when I got this plant, it was probably like a 1 or 2 leafer. She's doing well. This is another one that I haven't put up on a moss pole for whatever reason. And then this is her new leaf. And then look at that. Not too sure what's going on there, but I'll chalk that up to lighting issues. This is another Syngonium. This is my Syngonium panda. Syngonium panda. Doing well. I love the variegation on this plant. It's just so gorgeous. I've got this one living on a tiny little pole. This is my Epipremnum pinnatum variegata. So this plant becomes very beautiful. It's variegated, as you can see, and it does get really, really beautiful when it gets going. This plant has been tiny for a while. It's one of my plants that's not doing so well. It's not dead, but it's not, you know, growing as well as I'd like it to. So yeah, I'm hoping that light fixes that, but that's that one. This is a Syngonium Maria. You know, it exists. I think I got this plant as part of a pack. Not too overly in love with it, but yeah. And this one right there is my $1 orchid. That is still alive. So if anyone was wondering, that's my $1 orchid that's still living in Leca and just, you know, getting on with it. This is supposed to be my variegated heartleaf. Supposed to be. See, that leaf there is variegated. This leaf here is variegated. Most of the other leaves are not variegated. I have toyed with the idea of giving this plant away because it really doesn't hit the definition of variegated for me. But yeah, you know, it's nice, it's trailing. It'll be good for decorative purposes, so I'll keep it. This here is another trailing plant. It is another trailing satin pothos that I've got. Yeah, nothing much going on in this one. What I'll probably do is chop and prop. I'll chop it up, propagate it, and put the cuttings back into there so it makes a nice, lovely full pot. I've got 2 begonias here. This is a begonia immaculata, and that was gifted to me when I bought my Monstera albo. I never really wanted to get this plant, but it was gifted to me, so it's like, hey, yeah, no problem. And I put it in Leca, and it seems to be okay. That's a begonia medora. Begonia medora. She's living on a trellis. This plant is okay, it's alive, it's doing okay, it's seen better days. And I think with this particular plant as well, it's really lighting issues because there is nutrient solution in here and its roots are growing really nicely, but I think it's a situation of light. And of course, living back there is my Mandula. That is my Mandula pothos. Really love this one, so I've got 2 of these, and she's just put out a new leaf there. And yeah, she's living in Leca. That's her reservoir there. She's happy up in her corner. So down there, right by the window, I've got my 2 money plants. And right in the corner, I've got my humidifier as well. So on most days, I'll have that humidifier running. And when it's out of water, I'll put more, and that's it. So this is my grow tent back here. I've got all my plants that need extra light and extra humidity living in here. So that is a tour for another day. Let's go to my next plant corner. So this is another corner in my home where I've got my biggest poles, and I've got some plants that are living on poles at the bottom that I will show you. So this is what it normally looks like. And I do have a grow light here as well, but this is what it normally looks like without me bringing my recording light. So that's this area with the light on, so it's not looking so dim. So like I said, I've got my biggest poles living in here, and I'll show all my plants that live in this particular little corner to you. So here is my Epipremnum pothos. This is a golden ivy that's still living in soil and living in this little corner here. Over here is my green dragon. This is my green dragon pothos, and this is a really big plant that goes all the way up to the ceiling, and that one is also still living in soil. Next to that one is my marble queen. That's my marble queen here. That's also gone all the way up to the top, and that one is also still living in soil. So I've got a few big plants here, and it's just, this is the only space I could put them because they're up against a wall, so chances of the poles falling are minimal, and they're next to a window, so they do get some light, but the light is pretty inadequate. And down here is my golden ivy. This is my golden ivy that's living on a moss pole, and that's there over there. I've got my Monstera aurea there living in front of the golden ivy. I also have my Philodendron verrucosum that's living there as well. And next to that is my Monstera Thai constellation. And next to the Thai constellation, I've got my Monstera albo. Isn't she looking fab? Look at those leaves, just glorious. So this one right here, this is my golden ivy that I chopped up a few weeks ago. And I want to show you what that's doing now. That's a new leaf right there. That's a new leaf that's come from that plant after the chop. And living next to that is my Monstera El Salvador. This is my El Salvador here. It's got 3 vines and it's looking good. It's really looking good. And this one here, that's a new leaf on that El Salvador. Living on this section as well is, you guys will know what this is, that is my Snow Queen wall there. And this is my little variegated peace lily that's living in front of the window as well. This also has right here my Philodendron silver cloud. Right back there is my Cebu blue wide form. So my Cebu blue seems to be struggling a little bit there. That leaf seems to be gone. I probably need to give this a bit more TLC than I am at the moment, but this is a new leaf, so it can't be too unhappy. But yeah, that's this particular corner. So that's what this area looks like, and it's got this one grow light over here, and that's just hardly enough for these plants. to really have the amount of light that they need, because I just have to keep rotating this light and moving it from one set of plants to the other, and it's just not the best setup. So you can see the monsteras living down there and the bigger plants living at the top. So that's that corner. We'll go to the next one. This here is my other plant corner. So this is all in the same room, and it's as dark as. I've got a grow light here, which is why you've got this little light here in the corner. I've covered that up, taken my hand out. That's what this looks like. Okay, so this is another corner of my home where I've got a few of my plants grouped together. So that's a fiddle leaf fig I've got here. I've got my lickety split there. Got another fiddle leaf fig there. This one right here is my variegated fiddle. Didn't do so well in the move, but is now starting to recover. I've got a peace lily in this corner and my bambino fiddle there. I have my mishmash of pothos plants here. I've got more plants living on this table. That is a philodendron over there. And this is my white ice. This is my begonia white ice doing really well on its trellis. And back here is a philodendron. This is a philodendron imperial. I really love what this plant looks like. Lots of leaves. Down here, there's quite a fair bit happening. So this here is my marble queen, Epipremnum pothos marble queen. This one's living in Leca on a moss pole. It's doing really well, just got on the moss pole. And this one is my heartleaf, philodendron heartleaf, loving life. I will show you one of my beauties. This right here is my El Salvador. That is my Monstera El Salvador. Have you seen anything so glorious? Look at the size of those leaves and the fenestrations going there. That's absolutely fantastic. This one's living in Leca as well. I chopped this plant up. It used to be on top. This is the top part of the Monstera El Salvador that we've just seen. And down here is my little Birkin. So she lives down there in the corner. I've got here my Syngonium Fantasy. So my Syngonium Fantasy lives down here. That's my Syngonium Fantasy living down there. And also living down here is the tip cutting of my Golden Ivy. That's living in Leca. And look at that. She's not dead. So winning. Down here in this dome, I've got a chain of hearts. I'm doing an experiment with a chain of hearts down there. I'll let you know how that goes. This is also the tip cutting. Oh, hang on. No. This is the tip cutting of my marble queen. I lie. Look at that variegation there. That's a marble queen. And this is the tip cutting of the Golden Ivy. So that's huge. And look at where the area roots were on there. That's living in Leca, and so far so good. This one back there is a philodendron. And here is my fern. That's a fern that I just transferred from soil to Leca. That's a little experiment going, so I'll show you how that goes later. And of course, in that corner is my Snow Queen, or Enjoy, or whatever it is you want to call it. That's her living there in that corner, going all the way up. I've got more plants up there. That's my Syngonium Batik in the corner. And over there is my heat mat. And that's where I put all my propagations and everything that I'm sort of experimenting on. So this is one of my fern experiments. And as you can see, that is looking rather suspicious. And this is just this is a grow light that I've got there. And that just provides light to all my propagations. And it's one of those extendy things. And that's how that works. And I've got my Syngonium Wendelandi living there as well. And I've got a little philodendron there. And I've got a snake plant up in that corner over there. It's really dark in my home, and I've tried to supplement the lighting, but clearly I'm not doing a very good job. And that's one of the reasons why I believe that my plants are not doing as well as they have in the past. This is my little ZZ plant corner. This is my ZZ plant corner. So this area of the house does have a window right next to it, and I don't supplement the lighting, but the lighting is not really a lot. So I've got my ZZ plants living here. So that's my big ZZ plant there. This is my ZZ plant, Zenzi, ZZ Zamicro living there. So that seems to be doing okay. That is getting a bit on the dry side. I probably need to top that up. I've got my Jungle Warrior Raven, whichever one is which. So one of them is Raven and one of them is a Jungle Warrior. So that's where they live. I'll take you to yet another area. This is another plant area. So this is right next to the stairs and right in front of the front door. And there's a little bit of a window that provides some light. So I've got my Philodendron gloriosum here. That's living in her rectangular pot and just doing her thing. I've got my Philodendron mame living here as well. And I've got these little supplemental lighting sort of grow lights that sort of supplement that light. And on the shelf underneath, I've got my African violets. So I've got 3 of my African violets living there. And I've just got all the pots that I sort of use for my Instagram and taping and all sorts of things. I've got all my plant accessories living in this general area. Living in this corner here is my Rhaphidophora tetrasperma. That is my plant over there. And this one it's on a moss pole initially, and then I thought, where do you go with a moss pole with this plant? It grows so long, it grows so much. So I just sort of stopped at the one moss pole, and it's now just I attached to my staircase, and that's what I'm using as a trellis. So that's my staircase there, and I'm just letting the plant grow all the way up to there. I don't know what I'll do when I move from this house. That is a problem for future me, but these are my plants living in this corner. So that's this one. We'll go to the next plant corner. So in this corner over here, that is my Monstera adansonii. That's my monkey mask that was doing really, really well before I moved to this house. It's just okay now. I mean, it never had any of these brown spots when we were at the old house, but I think she's coming around. Next to that is my dragon tail. So that's living on that moss pole, and I think it's doing okay. That's a new leaf that's come out there. So I think she's really taken, and oh, there's a new one coming out as well. That one over there. So I think she's doing really well now, because remember I did do some work on this plant. That right there is my Dieffenbachia, and that's, she's doing okay. There are a few dead leaves there. And I must say that all these plants living in front of this window, it is freezing here. These windows aren't double glazed, so it is far from ideal. But the only reason I put them here is at least they've got some light. And I've got my Calathea. This is my Calathea fasciata that I just moved into this 20 centimeter pot living here. Again, not an ideal spot for this plant, but needs must. And now I'll show you something spectacular. So these are my Hoyas. These are all my Hoyas living on this table, and there's some of them actually living underneath this table. And only because I have nowhere else to put them. And you can see that, like that. That one is yellowing, not doing so well. But all in all, I think my Hoyas are doing okay. So yes, that's it. So that's it. That is the long tour. That is how I have my plants set up all over my house. Far from ideal, but this is what I'm working with. I'm trying to get them in a space where they can receive adequate light and grow as well as they can. So I hope you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video.